So my name is Vijay Jethani. I'm cloud solution architect at Microsoft. Okay, so I take care of the DevOps and any automation related uh, projects you can say, or the enablements you can say. So this is the broad plan which I have put together for this particular quarter, like from July to September, if you want to learn right from scratch to get you proficient on the DevOps. This is how, like today, we are covering the DevOps concepts. So in August, probably we will go more a deep dive into the what the Azure DevOps repositories are and the pipelines. Similarly, to get you hands-on to each and everything we can do in that Azure DevOps is with the hands-on labs. So this is kind of more of a 300 level session where I will be providing you the repository and you will also work. I will show you that and you will be working together with me on resolving those particular challenges. Similarly, we will be doing with the GitHub Actions. So there is a GitHub repositories and GitHub Actions. So this is also planned for September, and similarly we will do hands-on lab. So if you want to have a complete hands-on on the DevOps along with the GitHub, so this is the plan we have from July to September. Now let's move to the agenda for today. So here basically we are covering the concepts. Let me populate the slide. So starting the DevOps, then knowing about the DevOps and GitHub tools, and how do we deal with the security, and finally with the where you should not apply DevOps. Okay, that is the agenda for today. So first, let's try to understand why we are actually wanting to have DevOps at first place. Team, please go on mute. So consider before even we start the DevOps, consider what the modern app look like. As everyone is moving towards cloud, obviously we are thinking from the cloud perspective. So cloud native is the first thing which we are looking at. Other thing is intelligence, whether we can have not only from security per se, but also whatever we do in and out with the application, we want that to be intelligent and providing us some insights into that. So that is what is the requirement. Similarly, as we are collaborating together most of the times, because not a single person will not be working on the projects. It is, I would say, the team effort, right? So that is what we are looking at, that everyone should be able to contribute towards that. Final thing is obviously the most important is the customer experience. So with these things in mind, what we have found is any of the modern app requires the engineering methods which involves the DevOps. That is what we are trying to say here. So it can be just the collaboration. It can be the way you promote your code from the different stages, like from alpha, beta, private preview, public preview, and then towards your go live. That is how the complete chain will look like once you are working on these code repositories or any of your deployments. So DevOps is, like as I said, is a cycle. You have to follow each and everything. Okay. Now, having said that, why we are actually trying to bring GitHub at first place. Now, you might be working on the any third party DevOps products. So that's totally okay, like whatever the products you are working on. However, we want to give you the synergy that GitHub brings in along with the Azure DevOps. So this is what we have seen. If you have the code in your hand, so most of the time this codes comes from an open source. That means what we are saying is 90% of code comes from an open source. It's only some of the customization as per our requirement we are building on top of that. That means your code, your contribution is only this, but still our job is still not done. We have to apply a lot of things on top of that. We have to check everything is secure and everything is working to what is required for the customer. Okay, so these all things you will take care only if you have the native built-in tools. So that is where GitHub comes to the help, that it provides you the base layer for you to host that repository. So you can have any code from an open source and you build on top of that. It gives you that engine to do that. You may be working on any third party vendor. So we do have the marketplace as well. So you can integrate or have the APIs for different open source as well. Okay. So this may not be the complete list. You can, if you want to see the complete list, GitHub Marketplace will provide you the complete list of what you have as on date today. Now, what is inner source? So if you are a developer or working on any of your projects, let it be whatever framework or languages you are working on, you might be having some of the code taken from an open source, right? So how do we implement this exactly the same process of open source within our organization is called inner source. That means irrespective of wherever you are, to whichever teams you belong, we want to bring that expertise, or I want to bring a right competent developer or that particular resource who really wants to work across those projects. So that you can do with inner source. As you see here, these are just the different teams reporting to the different structure, or I would say the hierarchy, you can say. So we want to bring all of them, depending upon their interest. I think they can collaborate. Similarly, most of the times if you are not working in an inner source environment or open source environment, we are very much tied to our projects and only look into what we are supposed to do. But this gives you an opportunity to think beyond what you are doing at present. Also, at the most important is your own satisfaction, right? So with this approach of inner source, the GitHub provides you, can collaborate across the projects, across streams, and also work on your day-to-day job as well. Now, everyone have in their mind that why basically we are running on two different products which are almost doing the same thing. Like if you see Azure DevOps is also DevOps related product, then GitHub is also doing the same thing. So our idea is when we started with our TFS or Visual Studio, I think everyone knows us from an Azure DevOps perspective that we are a core for enterprise and have done a lot of things from an developer innovation perspective. Okay, so that means being the product company, we have worked on a number of products. We release so and so. Obviously, we cannot run without DevOps. So Azure DevOps was the first place. But our investment in GitHub is purely to look at open source and how we can build the synergy together, like with Azure DevOps and GitHub. So having said that, this is thing we want to tell our anyone who is working on any of the products that we share across the same leadership. Oh. We are investing. Team, please go on mute. And we are investing a lot into both of the products. So it is not that we are going to decommission Azure DevOps coming 10 years down the line. However, we want to have the best of product components across from Azure DevOps and GitHub. Okay, so let it be engineering and whatever you see from the product per se, and also whatever the marketplace you see, that means integration across the ecosystem of ISVs or vendors. You can see that we are building together the same engineering team. So obviously our motto is to provide you the best of both the products, Azure DevOps and GitHub. So this is what is our commitment, which is I think clearly written black and white, because till last year we were not having these things in place, but from this year onwards, I think we have a long-term investment in both of, let it be Azure DevOps or GitHub. Only thing, as I said, GitHub we acquired because it was more of home to an open source, and most of the developers who want to collaborate in an open source way, we want to bring them and work in the same similar fashion across the products. Okay, so while I move ahead with those product details and components and everything, you will understand that when you have to use Azure DevOps and when you want to use GitHub. Ideally, if I have to give you a percentage readiness of products, Azure DevOps is almost 95% ready. And from the GitHub per se, it is at this point of time, I would say around 60 to 70% ready for the enterprise. So that is what we have at this point of time. Hence, we also have, hence, if you see the commitment below, we are trying to bring most of whatever we can bring together. So stay tuned. I think we are not decommissioning anything. If you are a Azure DevOps customer, try to do or try to work on your project similar way. There is no hard and fast for you to migrate to GitHub unless and until you want to do that. Okay. However, we will show you the best way of doing that, where you may have components of GitHub as well. So irrespective of whether you are Azure DevOps or you have started with GitHub, we share the same engineering team and we will try to invest in both of the products equally. Now, for us to understand, we have, as I said, DevOps is a life cycle, right? It consists of the process, people, and the tools, right? Technology, we can say. So with these, obviously, the first phase comes is our planning phase. So Azure Board is an tool which is used in Azure DevOps. GitHub Issues and Discussion is again the project management tool, but is being used in the GitHub. So at end, I will show you which are the best tools to use for. But at this point of time, for you, just know these product names. That's it. The purpose of this call is for you from a DevOps concept perspective. Just know these tools. We will get into the deeper as we move ahead. Okay. Now, moving from our planning or the project management stage to the develop stage. Here, obviously, as it says the develop, we need some kind of ID, which is a cross-platform ID, which you can work on and actually build your code and compile and build your code for them to be ready to be shipped, right? So Visual Studio Code, and GitHub Codespaces. Now, if you are hearing GitHub Codespace first time, it is nothing but the online version of Visual Studio Code. Okay, so Visual Studio, I think most of you might know, this is the proprietary, or I would say the product which we have been using in and out for the development. But then Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code both are being used. This is an open source and this comes with a license if you're an enterprise. But still you can use the community edition of Visual Studio. And for Visual Studio Code, I think it's, this is a lightweight IDE. Okay, so Codespace is a live version of Visual Studio Code. Now, how do we collaborate? Like, what is the way for us to know, irrespective of wherever you are or if you're working from any location? So baseline is our repositories. So repositories can be of two types. One is the centralized or one is the decentralized or distributed, I can say. GitHub and Git is a decentralized repository, whereas if you say the centralized one, I think if you have worked on the way we used to have TFS and the things, so that is your centralized way of working with the repositories. Security and mobile, I will just talk. We have the slides for that, so just wait for that to come through. But it is, as it says, GitHub security. We have a number of tools within that, how you can have the security in one dashboard. Similarly, is for mobile, I think how you can on go, how you can comment or I would say approve your pull request or you review those code in a simple term. So after collaborate, that means once we have a code in place and we have done a number of checks, code is ready to ship, and we are able to promote that code to the production. Now it is a time to actually deliver that. Now for delivering that, we need to have a basic prerequisites. If it is on cloud, then obviously we need that services to be ready and to be deployed before the code can be deployed. So these are some of the tools like Azure Pipeline from Azure DevOps, Azure Test Plans again from Azure DevOps, Azure Artifacts is from Azure DevOps. Wherever you see Azure, they are more or I would say tied to Azure DevOps as a product. Wherever you see GitHub, so they are the GitHub related components. Okay, so actions is similar to pipeline. They are workflow. Similarly, artifacts is the way you package your component, and so GitHub package is the other name in the GitHub. So Azure Artifacts is the name for the, I would say, the feed if you are using the relevant repositories, repository feeds in the Azure DevOps. Okay. So at this point of time, just try to remember the names. I think we will get into the deeper once we move ahead. Final thing is, how do you make sure the things are working fine? How many of your pipelines are workflows failed, succeeded? Who is working on those particular pipelines? So Azure DevOps dashboard will give those kind of information or reporting. Similarly, we also have GitHub Insights, which is within your repository itself, you can see who is collaborating and what kind of contributions he has over the past. Okay, and as you are in cloud, you will also have something, the cloud native tools like Azure Monitor or Azure Security Center to provide you the overall score of where you are with respect to any industry standard. So that can be taken care with the security center. And apart from that, there will be different services you will be working on that keeps on varying depending upon how you have designed or architect your product. So these are the 5 phases. I will pause here for a while so that you can look into each of them: plan, develop, collaborate, deliver, and operate. So this is a complete DevOps life cycle. Now, most important for us in every project or maybe from the customer per se is security, right? So today, even though you may be an infrastructure person or infrastructure related work you are doing at present, deploying servers or maybe getting infrastructure ready. Similarly, there may be developers who are working their code in and out. Similarly, there will be the security team altogether working in different silos. But today, the need is to bring all of them together so that right from scratch, developers know where they have to have the security in place. Similarly, the infrastructure person who is working with the developers or getting the infrastructure ready for that team should know what is the need of the developer at that point of time. And overall security team who normally comes at the end and checks, do all the checks whether it should be that you are green or amber or red on that. So they all have to start early. So when I say start early is rather than looking at this in production, look at that from the development start cycle itself. So that the numbers you see here is purely from the breach, or I would say the fine the companies pay if they fix something in the production, or if something is got breached, maybe any spyware, malware, you are completely logged out of the system. So that is what you see the penalty they are paying if they want to fix something in production. It will be very low while the developer is developing. Hence, there's a need for all, let it be an infrastructure, let it be a developer, or let it be a security, to start thinking from left, or I would say from the start of that particular software development life cycle. So this is what right from the planning, develop, build, test, and deploy. Okay. The other challenges we have at the end is at this point of time, we do have a good amount of professional developers, but we are really short of security researchers. Also, we don't need much. If we do this correctly, I think that's okay. We should be able to manage these challenges. Only thing is we have to have that mindset, because we have there are two ways to look at. One is something coming from an open source. If something coming from open source, obviously you don't you take as it is, but as you are trying to build product on that, so obviously anything security checks, integration related tests, you have to do that. Similarly, if you are home growing any project, or the developer is building that project right from scratch, he has to have everything right from that the plan and develop phase itself, so that we can avoid these kind of challenges and also the breach which we are seeing from the security person. So now what GitHub brings you with their product portfolio. First thing is, as we are taking everything from the open source, we should have the way to know like what are the dependencies which is affecting our product at this point of time. So we should be able to give you the dependency updates. That means this can be upgraded to the next minor version or the respective patch. Similarly, if you have any breach within the code itself, like that means either you have left a secret there, or you are using something which can be attacked or can be used to get control of the system. That is where we want to have the code scanning and provide you the where you are not or the security needs to be fixed. Okay. The secret scanning is again more of a, if you are working at the product level, right? So obviously it can be a normal, you are just login IDs. It can be tokens or anything. So at this point of time, we have 35 plus providers. Okay. So with that, we will be providing you like, okay, if you have committed this, your access will be revoked, or maybe that particular code line will be deleted, and you will get an automated email saying that now because you have committed that, it can be a security risk for your project. So that we will do Git, or I would say GitHub will do on your behalf, and to remediate that at first place. So three things. First thing is to know your the code is dependent on what, and you have to have the latest patch or fix for that. Code signing, again, as I said, will also scan according your quality and whatever you have left behind from the security per se. The APIs are not secured, including so those all things you will be, and it will be also varied across the language. It gives you option of whether you are working on Java, JavaScript, or .NET. It also provides you that kind of the scanning. Secret, again, if you are really doing the secrets or committing something at the token or the admin level, I think we will revoke that completely. And we at this point of time, we support 32 of those providers out of box. Now, as we are working on open source, I think there are some of the guidelines from an open source for the security. So let me populate the slide first. So if you see here, the CWEs, that is common weakness enumeration. Okay, so this is what basically the open source look at. Similarly, there are top 10 from the security per se, like what you have to take care of. Let it be from injection per se, let it be from overall authentication or access management per se, and anything which you are not doing within your code. Okay, so there are around top 10 if you go now also on it and search OWASP. So this is more towards the web application security project. Okay, so this open source web application security project, it gives you top 10 what you have to take care from the security per se. Similarly, SANS 25 will give you what you are not doing right in the software development per se. What are the software bugs, or I would say rather than saying bugs, it's more of a best practices which you are not following and which you should follow for making that code more secure. Okay, then again, obviously you will be working to the relevant languages and the frameworks. You have to follow those particular languages and framework. So this is how, from an open source perspective, and exactly the same thing we are bringing you within the GitHub. with the previous slide which I've shown you. Exactly the same thing we are bringing so that you can have most of automated, but still at some places where we could not do or update that, we will provide you the saying that now you have to take call on whether it should be this particular minor version or that minor patch version or not. So that call you have to take, but still there is a lot more to be done on the security perspective, because security is not just the vendor or the cloud provider's responsibility. It is equally responsible from customer or whoever manages that environment. Okay, so but at the end of the day, we want to provide you the complete dashboard or way to make your life easier from end to end. Now, Code Spaces, as I said, this is an online version of Visual Studio. So you can directly, this basically is hosted on our environment. That means an Azure environment. And if you see the look and feel, exactly, you will get the same look and feel. At this point of time, this is in beta. That means like I have access to that, but I think you may be on wait list, or I would say unless you get access to that, I think you won't be able to try. But at this point of time, I would say there is no hurry to go for it. If you are using Visual Studio Code, exactly the same way you will work on the code spaces. Okay, it is the ID available online, cross development ID available online. Now, as I said, anything you do, the way we have seen our deploy stage, we need some workflow to understand what are the steps we have to follow for end-to-end deployment. So actions is a workflow. Depending upon your products, we are creating a actions. So that already has the written code. You just have to place it appropriately in that workflow for that code or that particular service to be created. So at this point of time, we have things on Kubernetes, on web app, function app, SQL Double. So there are around 70 plus ready to use actions, right from connecting to your environment to deploying your code and creating those services and getting them ready, or I would say a production ready, along with the your standards. That means if you want to apply any industry standards as well, you can do that with a Azure policy. So these are some of the common actions. But as I said, I have on Marketplace, you will be able to see the complete checklist of what you can use out of box. Okay. And a mobile, as I said, it's more of a collaboration tool. If you on your go, I think you should be able to chat, have a discussion around with your teammates. Similarly, if you are a manager, you can approve that particular pull request for that code if you have done a review, or the team lead, you can also approve. It purely depends upon how the hierarchy is at your end, following the inner source as an approach if you are an enterprise. Now, previously we used to have any discussions using issues only, but now we have the separate product equivalent to, I would say equivalent to issues, but here it is not related to the issues we found in that code, but it is more related to discussions we want to have. Maybe we are working on a new feature. So how it should look like, complete planning and discussions we can have over this particular repository or over this particular channel, which is called discussion. So while I show you practically both of these products, I think you will realize where you can enable them and what are the ways you can interact with your team members. So I believe this is time to show you the demo on both Azure DevOps and GitHub, how they look like. So let me stop sharing this and start sharing the. So let me start with, first of all, Azure DevOps. So For Azure DevOps, as again, you need to take control of end-to-end the components. So we are putting them, all of the components are organized within an organization. So first thing you have to decide is to whether you are using your own personal account or Microsoft account, or you want to integrate with your the work account. So that is a decision at first place you have to take, depending upon whether you have the Microsoft account or whether you are working on your school account or your office account. Okay, so that is the first thing you will do. Once you have that in place, or you have taken your decision on that, then go ahead and create an organization for you. Okay, so prerequisites, again, the way I said, you should be very much clear on that. So that is already taken here from the or before you create an organization. So why you and the URL you can use is the way it shows sign in. If you are doing it first time, it will give you to create that with your work or school account, whichever account you are using, and you can create an organization. If you are first time user, I think it will directly bring you to the screen saying that this is how the organization will look like, dev.azure.com, and it will be your short name or the name with probably you want to keep it for that school or personal account where you want to host. So that is also we can take care of if there are any residency or maybe from the compliance you want to have that. So you can actually have that. Okay, so once you have that, I think for you to log on, you just have to go to dev.azure.com and then it will be some short name. So in I will show you in my case. See, I have that organization created for myself. So this is how it looks like. It is, and within this organization you will have the projects. That means if I'm working on any relevant projects, so they will be appearing here, and within that projects you will see the different components which I have shown you. So at for this today's concept session, I think I would not deep dive into each of them because in interest of time, but want to show you that whatever I have shown you in terms of the how the structure is for Azure DevOps. Board is a project management tool. A repository is where you will actually keep your code. Pipelines is your workflow. Okay, so the pipelines can be for building and you may have different environments, different releases, and library is more for keeping your packages, okay, or the artifacts. Test plan is again to create your any testing related plans. Artifacts is for creating the packages or feeds. Okay, so this is how it looks like. And compliance, I think it will not show you in your organization at this point of time because still in beta, but I think you will still get that at this point of time. We have to have a Azure Security Center to take care of that. But I think this is soon coming to Azure DevOps, which we are working on as of now. Okay, so that will come. So bear with us until we have all of things available. Now let me come back to the organization setting because that is more important for you at this point of time to understand the look and feel. So this is again, I think at right hand side, you as I'm logging with my Microsoft account, which is a work account, it will show. Similarly, you will have a directory, the way you are authenticating yourself. Let it, if you are using any Azure AD, like from subscription per se, whichever subscription you're using, you may be owner or admin on that or global admin on that subscription. So that is what the directory will use. Coming to an overview, this is how it will look like while you want to log on to your own organization. Then again, if you are working on a number of projects, so that particular projects, depending upon whether you are following the Scrum process or CMMI level project, similarly, or basic stuff you are doing, so that will start the basic. Whether you want to have that publicly available, privately available, that all visibility can be done. Similarly, who are the users who are collaborating on that? So in my case, I have my different accounts right from my own personal account, and so that is will be coming here. As this is a free, I'm also using free account. So in case of free account, you will also see that whatever the restrictions you have in the free account, so that will come up. That we by default we are given 1800 minutes free. Okay, so 1800 minutes are free of the CI/CD. So and you get 2 GB of the storage space for your code. Okay, so that is basically the work you can do in your free account. The reason I'm using same is because there is no need for me to really use an enterprise because that is sufficient for me for the demo purpose. Okay, so 2 GB is the limit I'm getting, and that's sufficient for me to at least do the demo. Other thing is if you are working on any extensions or something that will appear here depending upon the framework you have. Okay, so users and everything will come here, and any other extensions at this point of time, depending upon the products that will be available or installed, requested, everything will be third party, that something will be available here. From an integration per se, this is my tenant. So similarly, if you are working with your work account or your personal Microsoft account, that will come here. So team, at this point of time, I want to limit it in interest of time. This was just giving you a look and feel on Azure DevOps, how the components actually relate to practically. Okay. Now coming back to the from the GitHub. Now exactly the same way you have to come to the GitHub. Okay, so in GitHub you will create a free account. Okay, so you will create a free account here. It will have a similar something similar to this name, which we also call as a GitHub handle. So you will have this kind of a there is nothing as such an organization directly, because if you are creating a private account or your personal account, it will be not an organization. It is just a profile or with your individual account that will be coming through. Okay, and in this, the way you have seen we were having the repository there, similar case you will have the Git repository which you are seeing here. Some code will be, and there will be some any files for readme and everything will be available exactly same way. Only difference is the platform is different. The Azure DevOps is from the way the Microsoft has started, and GitHub is purely from an open source, the way they have started. So some tools and components will look different, but ideally the purpose of both the products is same. Okay, so code, this tab is used for keeping your code. Similarly, if you want to get this or any particular issues fixed, so you will raise an issue here if there is any on respective particular repository and mention it on which line of the code that particular issue is. Okay, similarly, uh, as I have shown you from the security per se, that there is a dependent bot which provides us that if it needs to be upgraded to the, so this is how it does automatically. It is waiting for me to just approve that request so that it can do its job. So when I click on merge, this is kind of an approval which will actually do changes to this dependent at this particular to from 7.0 to 7.3 in that particular docs folder where this code is. So while I do that, that will go off and do that upgrade for me. So this so easy it is for most of the time, but in case it has conflict, it will provide you the, now this is doing the automated fix for me. Okay, so this is how the advantage we want to bring in with the GitHub, where we already have the tools ready for you to do the dependent bot related vulnerabilities which can be fixed. Similarly, there will be still more. While I come to security, I will show you. Actions is something like, as I said, workflow. If I'm running any particular workflow and any jobs are running depending upon what kind of language they are using. If you see both of them were successful, basically did the analysis on top of my code saying that if there is anything which is at this point of time red yellow, so that all will you will get with the help of these particular while you do this analysis. I can show you the code as well. It lies in the workflow and what kind of the program look and feel. Okay, so while I do go with the GitHub actions and we will do the deep dive into that, I think you will understand more. But from an overview per se, I would say this is using the CodeQL engine. Okay, and for doing the scans. And I want to make sure if anyone does any push on this particular branch or this particular file, changes to this particular file, then this code should run and it should have the languages in place. And I would have the complete report available for me to review that. Okay, so that will be available to us for review once we run that. So at this point of time, I just want to skip in interest of time, but I think just want to show you the power we have with these particular workflows. Okay, so GitHub actions will be used for these kind of things as well as doing the deployments, code build, each and everything, which we will do the deep dive once we come to the those particular sections. Projects. Again, as I said, you can have a organization who is working on that particular request or that particular issue or the project. You can have that while you create the project. I think you can do that. Wiki is more of an internal kind of thing where you want to have the documentation related to this particular repository. Now, as I've shown you the security, I've shown you one thing which we did for the what kind of advisories or what kind of the dependent bot alerts you can update it automatically. So those all things you can see here. So if you see the code scanning or dependent, it has clearly mentioned everything whatever it's trying to do. Now something which I have not explained is what is security policy and what is security advisories. Security policy is more towards how we want a user to report if there is any bug or vulnerability. Advisory is something which you work internally and try to fix that or how you will fix that. Okay, so these are depending upon what you want to have, just have to click on the respective links towards that. Now let me show you the dependent bot alerts, something which it can fix. It will create a pull request or the way I have shown you the merge, you will have the number towards that. But somewhere if it cannot do that, it will give you similar to this high severity. It is able to fix. It will have a severity. So just have to docs package log.json file. If I click on that, it will show you what exactly that is. Okay, so this particular file and where exactly you want to have, it also gives you that particular the version where it has a conflict. Okay, so basically you will go and just upgrade that to respective. This is the sign which you are seeing. If you want to start, say suppose this is the bug it's showing. Okay, so if I want to increase that, so just I would put minimum greater than this particular minor version. So that way, because it was not able to get that, it gives us an opportunity to do that. Otherwise you could have done automatically with which I've shown you the pull request. So that way you can go and actually fix those particular issues. So these are all can be fixed automatically. Where it cannot do automatically, it will show you for you to fix that where you don't have the pull request raised automatically. Okay, so that way just go and go to that particular code and just try to fix that. Now insights is more towards if you have collaborated towards that. Now I think you know I did this, so it has have that kind of record for me that what I did in that particular code or in the docs folder for that particular file. I've upgraded that version, minor version from. So that is what it gives you each and everything whatever you do in the repositories, which is very helpful, which we cannot track it manually. Final thing is coming to the settings of that particular repository. Okay, so you can manage the access. You can have the security analysis. That means everything what I want to try to run, I want to make it enabling first from here. Then only it will do that for me. And by default, if you are working on public repository, you have most of the advanced security features available to you. Okay, so these are some, I think once you have your own repository, you can just go and play around with that and try to look into what exactly things you can do with those particular repositories. Okay, so again, coming back, something which I want to show you is by default, the discussions will not be on. You have to make it on this particular check mark to set up the discussion. By default, you will only see the issues. But once you do that, enable that, I think discussion tab will come here. This is the default behavior. Okay. Then last thing, this is something who is working on that you want to watch each and every activity or notification working on this repository, or you want to ignore, you can set according the visibility of that. Someone, if you're collaborating and someone likes your repository, he will come and make the stars on this particular repository. Similarly, if you want to fork, that means you want to contribute towards this repository, that means it in a proper organized way. That means anything you want to merge it will go through a proper review and pull request being raised and then reviewed, and then finally the code is being promoted to production. This is the ideal way, the way you will work with your team which are working across maybe the geographies or across the different projects. Okay, so that is how this will happen. So team, from the complete the how it looks like in Azure DevOps and GitHub. Today, this is what maximum we will go through the demo, but in future classes, I will show you how we can get deep dive into each of the products and also do some hands-on. Okay, so let me come back to the presentation. So okay, so that was all about the repositories and how you set up your account. Now, how to make sure that you select an appropriate tools. First of all, if you are an existing customer using an Azure DevOps and just want to move a repository to GitHub, you can directly do. And that there are tools available. Either you can use a native Git tool and upload, or use and the branches, respective branches to upload that, or that is how that is the first place you will look at. Or if you are completely starting new, then there is no other way than just to start with the way we started our organization account and start creating a repository and collaborate with your team. That is the first way. Other thing is how you will uh, actually do the project management stuff. So that the Azure boards will give you that particular things, irrespective of whichever workflow is running, who is working on that project, and also we manage who is on leave, a complete calendar and everything in the Azure boards that you can have in dashboards. If you want to automate or create the pipelines or GitHub actions, you can do that while you adopt that. Okay. Similarly, from Azure DevOps and the GitHub both, you have the I would say a storage place where you can keep the finished package or product. Okay, so that you can do. Now, this is the table which is being put together to provide you the comments across each and every. So here we have, if you see the DevOps phase that tool lies in, and whether it is an Azure DevOps related project or GitHub related projects, and what are the recommendations to use that. Team, please go on mute. If you want to use it for planning or the project management purpose, then I think Azure Boards is the best product you can use. However, if you are a small organization where you can manage that yourself, I think issues and the projects which you can have, where you will come to know like issues and can be used when you just have a smaller team and you can just are just collaborating over what needs to be fixed in a limited team. But if you are working to the n number of pipelines and then you have the different teams working, you want to have complete management of their work streams along with their when they are going on the vacations and everything, then Azure Boards is the best place to work on from the project management person. So we have clearly put, if you want to give detailed deep dive sprint planning, go with Azure Boards. If you want basic planning, go with the GitHub issues and projects. So now, as I've shown you for the discussions, you want that is only available in GitHub, so that we are clearly calling out that it is used for your conversation in that thread. But in our, if you want to have an equivalent thing, I think you can do that. We don't have anything out of box for Azure DevOps. You can use the Teams as a collaboration platform for that. Now, SCM is nothing but the source control management tool, which are nothing but the repositories in both the cases. So either you can use GitHub as your Git repository tool, or you can use Azure DevOps, where you can also have centralized, that is TFS, along with your Git. So which is not written here, but I'm saying something which from an experience, like if you are still on the central repositories, you'll be using the TFS there. Now coming to the develop phase where you are actually trying to code it. So you will be working directly in that particular IDs, right? So if you want to have a hands-on on the GitHub code spaces, there is a the link, registration link, but cannot say when you will get an access to that. But meanwhile, I would say just use your Visual Studio Code. That is sufficient for you to do your coding. Or if you are I would say using Visual Studio, by default, I think you can use community edition of that free of cost. Now for security scanning, what should we do? In both of them, like that means Azure DevOps and GitHub, we do have the tools. Also have a third-party extensions available from the marketplace. We should be able to help you with that tools. How do I deliver that? That means at the end of the day, I need a package or finished product to deliver it to my client. So this is how I will do that. If I'm using Azure DevOps, then Azure Artifacts. If I'm using the GitHub, then obviously the GitHub packages. I want to run workflow. That means end to end. Not only I'm doing the deployment, I'm doing just the build, test, and then creating the finished product and deploying across the different environments that I can do with both of them, pipeline and the GitHub Actions. So in this workflow automation, it is not limited to just deploying in anything. I think for notification purpose also you can use that. That is what is meant by that doing more than CI/CD. Ideally, it is pure in our end how we want to have the workflow in place or how we want to organize the workflow. So test plan today, as of now, we only have in the Azure DevOps. The way I said that Azure DevOps is 95% ready and GitHub is still picking up in terms of GitHub Actions are limited till 70 plus. But if you go for Azure DevOps, you have more than 200 or 250 plus actions available, or I would say the pipeline task available to you at this point of time. Reporting again, both of them have if you see the from Azure DevOps, I think build and whatever the dashboards I have been talking about will give you that. Similarly, for insights, I have shown you in our demo that how you can get who has collaborated and over the past, what was the complete history you can get through that particular dashboards. Mobile, I think it is only limited to the GitHub. Okay, so now coming to the last part of it, where we are not seeing or where you should not use the DevOps. So let's look at that. So as I have shown you, just go back and think about the applications or whatever the work you are doing in and out, what you require from service creation, from build perspective, from test perspective, or also coming to the dashboarding and everything, whatever we've been talking about. So if you cannot have a repeatability greater than 50%, that means you require frequent changes to that. So in that case, you should not use DevOps or DevOps is not that effective. In anything, like say suppose the example can be in your every time you want to change the command lines or any particular scripts you might be using in that, every time you are changing that, in that case you will not get effectiveness of DevOps because every time the requirement is different, the end target is different. So obviously you will require changes to the configuration. So in that case, obviously DevOps is an automation tool. It has to be have repeatable nature, then only we can use that effectively. Similarly, I think you and me, we are have work on infrastructure related automation tools. Let it be SCCM, like simple patching and management. It has very well configured APIs and dashboards, which gives us an effective dashboard as well, and then gives us what worked well, what failed, what was the reason. So in that case, don't try to bring Azure DevOps in place and do those things with Azure DevOps. That way you will fail because Azure DevOps will not have that effectiveness because at the end of the day, it will only going to call that APIs of that particular product. So that way you will not have a DevOps effectiveness in that place. Similarly, This is the most use case when I actually working on the DevOps. The teams who are working on the desktop environment, they came that I want to have complete automated desktop environments. So I would say, see, from the test perspective, from the showing a POC perspective, it will work all fine because you don't have any customization or any customization layer on what are the base underlying OS they will be used, what are the underlying softwares will be used. However, if you come to the production environment, there will be a lot of customization and everything that keeps on changing unless and until you are keeping some no touch kind of thing, like say for 1 year you are not going to touch that particular image, or for that particular 6 months down the line you are not going to touch that particular image for that particular desktop environment. So in that case it will be effectiveness, but if you keep on changing that to a requirement of customer, then obviously that is not a best use case to use for DevOps. Again, patching and security, we do the patching and security quite often, right? But in that case, every time the patches are different, the security updates are different. Even if you put the workflows, the backend or the behavior of that patch or security requires some different dependencies, some different basic prerequisites. That means you keep on changing with your pipelines. And so in those cases, I would say recommended to use cloud native tools. Like I would give you example of update management in Azure. Similarly, if I'm working on any particular third party and automation management consoles, then even for the production VDIs, let it be the first party vendors, let it be Citrix, VMware, or even Microsoft for their VDI environments, give you something which you can do out of box, and no, don't need DevOps for that. Ideally, you will be wasting time doing the configuration and making that work and test that thoroughly. By the time you do that, I think 3 months are gone, and then you have to have a next particular version coming in. So these are some use cases which I would say don't use DevOps. It will not be that effective. Again, if you are having the legacy systems which are so hard coded, that version itself, and then you are using more of a scripting, just you are giving them some flow. So something which you are already doing fine or working fine with the native scripting, and you bring them in Azure DevOps, first of all, you will be also wasting your cost of a DevOps license for that particular reason. And then you have to get that working. And second thing is DevOps has to travel all the way. If you have any security restrictions, although we don't require much of the port opening, it is only 443, but then you have to run that agent especially, or I would say a management machine, especially for that to run or deploy that on that particular platform, which is native to you within your legacy environment. So these are some of the use cases which I find practically, which is not working effectively for the DevOps.